Thank you for attending our Get Into Motorsport Evening. It's great to see so many of you here tonight. I'm Laura, I'm the Club Development Officer at Anglia Motorsport Club. Before we start, I'm just going to give you a very brief overview of this event and what we hope you might get out of it. So we ran this event for the first time last year, our Get Into Motorsport Evening. It was really successful. Now, the reason behind us running this is because I think, as we're all aware, we all know about the elite forms of motorsport, Formula One, the World Rally Championship, and it's probably that hooked our interest in motorsport. But we might not all be aware of the various forms of motorsport, the roles and disciplines that you can actually take part in on your doorstep that are probably taking place and you just might not have heard about it before. So this evening we're going to be running you through the various opportunities available, specifically here in East Anglia. We're going to be going through the various disciplines and roles. And the presentation element is going to last around an hour. So we will talk you through what each discipline is, what you need, how to get involved. And then we're going to go into a bit more of an interactive element afterwards. So there'll be a break for teas, coffees, we've got plenty of cake. And then you'll have the opportunity to talk to our local ambassadors. So we're very lucky to be joined today by local ambassadors competing in the region, representatives from motorsport clubs and the national governing body, Motorsport UK. And we're very lucky to have some representatives here today. So any questions you have, I'm sure we've got the right people in the room here to answer. If you have any questions, please feel free to ask them at any point this evening. Put your hand up during the presentation and we'll do our best to answer it. Or if not, keep hold of it and come and speak to us after. So I think we're ready to start. So I'd like to introduce you to Laura and Vinny, who will be joining me tonight hosting the evening. Like myself, we've all been involved in motorsport for quite a while now, since a young age, so I'll let them introduce themselves to you.
Go on, Laura, you're first.
Okay, so my name's Laura Christmas, don't confuse with Laura Coolidge, I know it's very confusing. I got into motorsport from the age of about 14 and my father got me involved. He got involved with friends when he was in his early 20s and then took a bit of a break, and then when I was old enough he got me involved. So I started doing production car trials, which we're going to talk to you about a bit later, and worked my way up through almost all of the events that we're going to talk to you about tonight, and I feel really lucky to have got involved at a young age and been welcomed into such a warm and welcoming community of motorsport.
Vinny Cruz, first of all, thank you very much for coming. This is massive tonight, that's brilliant. Thank you. And it's really nice to see some very young people here as well, as we discussed. We really want to get more young people involved in all this. I was born in Brazil, but been in the UK for about 20 years. Back in Brazil, I did a fair bit of karting, lots of off-road stuff. And then in the UK, I was told about grassroots motorsport, didn't realise what this all was. And it's absolutely brilliant. You can do stuff on your own road car, which is awesome. Got involved in auto solo through a friend. From then on, discovered Tiger rallies, which we're going to discuss about. And I also do stage rallies now. So I guess, yeah, that's it. Oh, a lot of people selected on the forum that they are interested in engineering. I'm a motorsport engineer, so if anyone wants to talk to me about that, particularly young people looking for a career or anything like this, feel free to come and talk to me afterwards about it as well.
Brilliant. Now, in terms of my Anglia Motorsport colleagues, we're joined here by Dan, the club chairman, and Brian, and they're going to just give a little overview of their involvement as well.
Okay, so I'm Dan Pearson, chairman of Anglia Motorsport Club. Been involved in motorsport since probably the age of 6. In car trials, passenger in the back of the family's Fiat 500. And then from the age of 14 I started competing in auto solos and predominantly nowadays found organising events. So yesterday I was clerking a solo down at Devon Airfield. Get great pleasure out of seeing competitors come back with a smile on their face after they've enjoyed themselves on a good day out. So that's me. Laura?
Good evening. I get all the boring stuff to do, but I'll try and keep it very short. Now, being club treasurer, it's my job to tell you entry was free, however, getting out... No. Yeah, so, Anglia Motorsport... Do you want me to keep on?
Oh, before we go on to that,
right.
see, this is Ben and Sam. They'll be talking a little bit later, so you hear more from them in a little bit.
The background to motorsport events is they're pretty much all organised by clubs. And the clubs are registered to Motorsport UK, which is the governing body in the country. So they all run to a set of rules. So being a member of a club is kind of important. But what club you're a member of is not as important, because in this region, what we've done is we've come together. So all 12 clubs in this region, which actually put on events, actually all came together under the heading of Anglia Motorsport Club. So once you've joined one, you become a member of the whole piece, in a sense. So you don't have to look around. It makes it a lot more simply. So choosing the actual club you're going to join is about who you get on with, where you live, and what they do. And that's the important stuff. It's more important to figure out how you want to get involved in motorsport than it is which club you're going to run with. So hopefully that's the end of the boring stuff, except the bit we missed that said no fires are planned. However, if there are, the 2 exits are there.
Can I just add something to that? You cannot join Anglia Motorsport Club as a club. So you can join any of those. In Anglia, it's an umbrella club that helps coordinating the resources to put on the events. Is that fair?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Brilliant. So, in terms of opportunities, these might look a little bit confusing right now. You might think, I'm not sure what this is. So we're going to be going through each of these disciplines now, one by one, really explaining it as clearly as we can, exactly what it's all about, what you need and how you can get involved.
And we're going to come back to this later with a brief explanation again of what it is, because it will get a bit confusing, so much information thrown at you. Come and talk to us as well later.
So the first discipline we're going to talk about is production car trials. This is the way I actually got involved, age 14, so you compete in this from age 14. And it's all about how far you can get across the course rather than how fast you get there. So this is one of our disciplines that are more around skill, the way that you can control a car rather than speed. So what you'll find yourself is there will be a course laid out across a hillside, and there'll be 12 pairs of gates. You can see in this photo we've got some that are orange, some that are white. And what you have to do is you have to get as far through the course as possible between those gates. It sounds very simple, however, you'll be traversing the course uphill, downhill, it's going to be very muddy, very slippy, and you really, really have to work hard on your clutch control, on your knowledge of the car, its spatial awareness, in order to manipulate that car and get that as far as possible. Now, this is a really, really easy discipline to get involved in, so pretty much any road-going car will do the trick. You'll see outside there's a number of cars that actually competed in car trials, and at the end of the day, it's the driver with the least point that wins. So the way it works with most sports, we want to score goals, we want to score whatever it is, we want to get the most points possible. But with this, it's a little bit different. So I mentioned those 12 gates laid out, whether you're going uphill, downhill, it might be a bit of both. You want to get through all of those 12 gates to get a 0, what we call a clear. So the first gate you will see is number 12, 11, 10, and if you hit a post or you don't get as far and you come to a stop, you get that score. So the aim is that you want to clear that hill, and yeah, then it all adds up at the end of the event. Now in terms of entry fees, they're very, very cheap. So you can get a full day's motorsport for around £30 to £40, which is pretty much the same price as what you pay for an hour and a half football match. So that's great. And it's also a really nice family day out. So for me, when I started when I was age 14, my dad and I would double drive. So you can enter in one car and 2 of you can compete. And it's just a great family day out. I think there's a lot of families together, there's that rivalry, and it's a good way to get started. It's also a great discipline where if you want to bring someone along with you and they don't necessarily want to drive, they can come a passenger for you, because it's very difficult to find grip and you'll often need your passenger to bounce for you, which is quite literally jumping up and down on the seat. So if someone wants to come along with you to see what it's all about, they don't quite yet want to drive, then this is a great way to do it.
Laura, are there classes, different classes, and what sort of cars turn up for these sort of events?
Yeah, so the clue is in the name with this, production car trials. So it's all about testing a production car, a car that's come out of the manufacturing line as it is. So there's classes for front-wheel drive cars, rear-wheel drive, but also there's a special class for cars that have driven to the event. So with this discipline, you can quite literally drive to the event, take part in it all day and drive back home. And I've got a couple of Citroen Saxos, like the one you've just seen on there, that I compete in. Bought them for probably a few £100s, and we have great fun. And you can also use them for the other disciplines like auto solos and targets. Now, Laura also started out in this discipline.
I did. So I was also about 14 years old when I did this. This was my first type of motorsport event that I ever did. And I remember vividly pulling up into the paddock area, the field, and my dad knew I'd never been behind the wheel before, but he was also worried about moving the trailer out of the way of other people and getting the car to scrutineering, where they check the car is just suitable for the event. So he said, get in, turn the key, and just move it over there. And I was like, oh, okay, right. And it literally is throw you in the deep end, but have an amazing time. Now, as someone who had never driven a car before, it was a great opportunity because it was a safe environment where people were going to make sure that I was being safe. And it's a low-speed event, but it's a very technical event, as Laura was explaining about going between the gates. It's amazing for learning about clutch control. You're trying to do hill starts on a muddy field, and you just don't get those opportunities on the road when you're learning to drive at the age of 17. And actually, it gives you skills as a driver that you're then able to apply to much more high-speed events all the way up to stage rallying. So it's a great place to start, it's lots of fun, and low pressure because it is that family community feel where everyone wants you to be successful, everyone's cheering you on, the marshals are giving you a push up the hill if you get stuck. So yeah, definitely fun, great way to get involved.
And as you can see, you can compete in pretty much anything. So this is Laura competing in a Fiat 126.
Yeah, I think my dad told me that he bought it for £100 about 40 years ago.
So that doesn't count.
But, you know, it's a rust bucket that he keeps trying to repair and get back on the road, and it was ideal for it because he wasn't worried about me messing it up if it did go wrong. It didn't, by the way. It's okay. It's still intact.
So a lot of these events, you've got the option to either trailer a car in or drive the car to it. Some of the classes, like Laura mentioned, if you want to enter that specific class, like auto solos, you have to drive the car in. You have to have an OT tax and insurance. That keeps everything quite level for everyone. So you can't turn up with a heavily modified car or a car that is not actually roadworthy.
So just to clarify, in terms of production car trials, all you would need to participate in one of those, in fact there's one this weekend, is a car. You would need join a local motorsport club. That's probably going to set you back about £10–15 for the whole year. It will also give you access to an amazing community of like-minded people who can support you in this. And what we call an RS Clubman licence. And we'll be referring to this quite a lot probably tonight. So what this is it is a free licence that you get from our national governing body, Motorsport UK, that allows you to compete. And you can get it literally within 5 minutes online. You put in your details and it will give you the PDF. And you need that licence in order to participate. So it's really, really low cost. And you've probably already got all you need to actually go and take part in one of these.
How much are production car trials, the events themselves?
Probably between around £30 or £40 per day, and also sometimes there's subsidised fees for junior drivers. So if you're under the age of 18, it might be cheaper, it might be more around the £15–20 mark. Just depends on the event and the club running it.
So you can start doing motorsport at grassroots level for about 50 quid or 40 quid for the event and 10–15 quid to join the club and have access to all of the sorts of disciplines.
And if you're not quite at that age of 14, or you've got a son, daughter, friend, someone who wants to get involved, you can passenger from a young age. So I remember my mum and dad doing a car trial when I was very, very young, and me and my brother, aged very little, sitting in the back, you know, enjoying bouncing. Probably not.
Brilliant.
Yeah, so it's a really family-friendly discipline for sure.
And it's extremely friendly in terms of people. You break down, there's like 10 people around you trying to get your car going again in all the disciplines that we're going to talk about. People are extremely friendly, and there is a competition. People want to win, wants to do well, but there is a lot more of the social side to it. It's quite a community.
Definitely. So our next discipline, I'm not going to speak about because this is Vinny's forte for sure.
Okay, auto solos and auto tests. I'm absolutely passionate about these disciplines. When someone told me that I could turn up in a road car to compete in an event and even be competitive for like 40 quid, I said, no, that's not possible, that doesn't exist. Well, it does. It's called Auto Solos. I'll give you an idea of what the event is and how it works. You can see a video there of me just playing about with my Toyota MR2. That's an Auto Solo test. The aim is not to drift. All I'm doing there is having fun. If you're going sideways, you're not going forward, so that's not good. But it's something that you can do in an Auto Solo. Right, so Auto Solo tests are defined by cones. And you drive around them as fast as you can. We usually have 4 different tests in the morning. You drive them about 3 times, and then 4 different tests in the afternoon. You drive them 3 times or whatever. Cost is about between 40 and 70 quid, depending on where you are in the country. Certainly cost effective. Types of cars that you can turn up with, whatever. The regulations are super open. Even modified cars can turn up. There is a specific class for cars that are not roadworthy and very modified. And classes are divided between up to 1400 cc, above 1400, and then sports cars like MX-5s, and then a class for K-trims and that sort of stuff. So you've got the chance of doing well in all different classes. However, the brilliant thing about Auto Solo is it does not matter what you turn up with. You can have a super powerful car, it doesn't matter. I usually do well in a Peugeot 106 1.4, which is parked up there. I actually won my class yesterday in an event, and I finished 3rd overall in an Auto Solo event against MX-5. What else was there? Above.
Yeah, there was all sorts there. I've even took part in a Peugeot 806 people carrier. That's the kind of thing you can take part in, honestly.
Yeah, anything goes on Auto Solos. What else? Ages. Another brilliant thing about Auto Solos is you can actually start racing F14. So there is a specific class that you have to have someone that is experienced with you, or just have a driving license. And from 14, you can start competing. In a road car, it's just brilliant. The key point is, I was a 14-year-old back in Brazil where the laws are a bit, so I could do whatever I liked there, right? You try and do anything here, you get locked up. So from 14, you can handbrake, you can wheel spin, you can do whatever you like in a controlled, safe environment. So when your young lad or young girl gets to 18 and get their driving license, they are a way safer driver out there. They will know how to control the car in an emergency situation. What else about Auto Solo? Ask some questions so I remember what else we can talk about.
So the cones are marked with letters or numbers depending on where you are,
Yeah.
and you follow the letter or the numbering, counting up or counting down. They normally reverse the test in the afternoon as well after a lunch break. So you drive throughout the day, and I would say it's actually quite exhausting and tiring because you're driving so much. And I think, you book a track day, pay a couple of £100, and you get about 2 minutes out of the track. And it's not like that. What it is a full day of driving, full day of competing. You're in and out of the car, so you're socialising with other competitors. And it's simple to follow. You get given a map. We've got some map examples on the side that you can go and have a look at later. So you learn the route. It's quite short, maximum about probably 30 sets of cones.
Yeah, about that.
So you can learn the route, and they're patterns that you become familiar with, particularly if you go to the same sort of events, run by similar clubs in this area, and it's something that teaches you all the skills you need to then use to go on to faster events. So you're talking about 30 mile per hour average, but I'm sure from anyone who has tried it will say it doesn't feel like that. It feels much quicker, and you get that adrenaline rush like you do in any other kind of motorsport.
Yeah, and on Auto Solos you are constantly on the limit of the tyre, either on power, braking or turning, and it's a brilliant school to learn how much you can actually extract the car from the car, particularly people who's into karting and that sort of stuff. You know that if you put too much steering, you scrub speed off and all that sort of stuff. This is perfect to master how much you can extract out of a car.
So talk us about an event, start to finish. when you get there, what do you expect? What things do you have to go through before you compete?
Yeah.
How does the day look?
So the events are held on either car parks, or our area tends to be in airfields. So that's one example on the picture you can see on the background. Quite open area. You arrive, you have to drive the car to the event if you are on an auto solo class. If you are, there are different classes. If you need detail, talk to me. But if you want to trailer a car in, you can as well. And then after that, you go through scrutineering, which sounds scary. For this level of motorsport, you don't need to worry. As long as your car is safe, you've got black and round tyres, road legal-ish. Your seatbelts work, your brakes work, your steering is not flopping all the way all around. You are going to be okay, right? You have to have a multi-tax and insurance. So you go through scrutineering. They will check your car. They will give you a piece of paper saying that your car passed. They do a noise test because most venues are noise restricted. You take all that paperwork. You go to the signing on trailer, and then there they're going to give you a full pack with your number and maps for the tests. And if the event is being sponsored, they will give you stickers as well, so you can put on the car. And then from then on, what you do, the tests are already laid out by our incredible organisers. They turn up on the day before and lay all the tests out. Everything is ready for you the next day in the morning. So you drive to the test. You're not obviously allowed to drive the test, but you can walk it. So there are maps of example of tests on the table over there. Not yet. No, people won't be able to see it. I can't see it from here. Not that I can see well.
Really, sorry.
So we can have a look at maps later. The maps are super simple. Just gates, 2 cones defined gates, and one standalone cone. The cone that is standalone will have another cone telling you which direction to go around that cone. So it's really hard to get completely wrong. And you have the chance to walk the test as many times as you want. So you turn up, everybody will try and get scrutineering done quickly, and then go and walk the tests as many times as they can. Some people run them, I do, to try and really memorize them.
We're not all as fit as you, really.
And then, right, you get a talk from the clerk of the course, which yesterday was done, explaining how the day is going to run. By that time, all the marshals are in their locations, and marshals are a special type of person because they turn up and they help out no matter the weather. Yesterday, I guess you know, the weather was terrible, and we had, 20 marshals, if not
20,
more?
25 marshals out, stood in the slight rain, a little
Yeah,
bit of wind, and
super
a bit
cold.
of cold.
Yeah, but they are there. They are just brilliant. So marshals are in place, and then everyone goes to the test that they are meant to start at. The marshal doing the timing will tell you start whenever you're ready, and they start the clock when you cross the start line. You do your run, and then there's a box where you have to stop in, and the clock stops whenever you cross the first line of that box. Those times, all those seconds, are summed up, and then at the end of the day, whoever's got less seconds obviously wins. But we usually have awards for class, so first, second and third on up to 1.4 class, and then above 1.4, so you get a fair few awards options depending on the class that you are.
To reiterate a point you made earlier as well, often you find at these events it's not the most powerful car that wins, and if you're not able to pump money into the sport, that's what's quite nice about this type of event, because you know that regardless of what car you turn up in, you have as much chance as anyone else at being successful. It's about having a clean day. We always say, if we make mistakes, we're kicking ourselves because we know that that's going to have a bigger impact than how fast we're going. And actually, it's about making sure that you're sticking to the route, not making a mistake of where you're going, not clipping a cone, keeping it tidy, and that's going to help you to be more successful, and that's going to mean you get the results.
So I remember when I first started, I was with my uncle, and he said, just drive around steady, there's no need to spin the wheels, as Vinny alluded to earlier. Whilst you're sliding around, you're not going forwards. So drive nice and steady, and you'll be surprised how quick you actually are.
Yeah, absolutely. 2 more things to mention. Penalties, yeah, you hit a cone, you get 5 seconds penalty. You didn't stop on the box where you meant to stop, you get a penalty. You get the test wrong, you get a penalty. So, and it is very, very tight. Laura and I have finished 0.2 of a second from each other before, out of 900 seconds on the day. So you see how tight it can be. It is ridiculous. So if you want to be competitive, this is brilliant. So yesterday's event was, it was very, very harsh because the weather was terrible and we didn't know how much grip we had, and you only find out when you get to the corner. So everyone spun, everyone crashed into cones, not crashed, clipped cones and all
Not
that.
quite sure everyone did, Vinny, but you've done a really good job of it.
I did. I was certainly a cone magnet yesterday. But anyway, we all finished very close together anyway. Question?
Yeah, are they pay as you go, or do you have to sign up for a season?
No, pay as you go. So you do whatever events you want, and if you do a minimum amount of events, you qualify for the challenge, which is a championship, but we call it challenge.
So with all of this, you can pick and choose as much or as little as you like. So
Yeah.
for me, it would be doing a few production car trials, a few rallies, whatever you want to do, you can pick and choose events. You're not signed up to do, once you decide on a discipline, you don't have to do a full season or anything. You can just think, right, I want to do this event this weekend and go and do that one. If you enjoy it, go and do more. If you don't, doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter, yeah.
Not at all.
And we're talking about events that happen around this area, but the same formats, the same events takes place all over the country. So you don't need to stick to this area only. If you've got the option to go somewhere else, you can. We are very, very active in this area of the country on all the events that you're going to see here.
And one last thing before we move on is that with auto solos, there has been some exciting news in terms of on the world stage, whereby you actually can participate and represent your country as Laura Christmas did this year.
Yeah, so actually Vinny and I entered a competition that was set up by MSUK a couple of years ago, and it was to be selected to represent the UK at the Motorsport Games, which was held in France, Marseille this year, last October. And it was for an auto slalom competition, and basically that's what they call auto solo in Europe, and it's a slightly different structure, but basically follows the same pattern. And at the competition, which was held in Oxford, went down there, drove like I normally would in an auto solo, and they took 3 times, and basically fastest male and fastest female went on and got selected. So I was really lucky to be selected, and then went to the games in October and represented the UK. And my driving partner Mark and I, our results counted together as a team, and it was really nice because it was actually the only discipline out of the 16 disciplines that were held at the Motorsport Games that had 50% female entry and 50% male entry. So it was really positive for promoting women's involvement in motorsport, but also promoting a grassroots event that anyone can participate in. And we were really happy to finish in 12th position out of 25 countries that entered, and if it wasn't for a knockout round, we would have come 7th, but you know, that's how it works. So yeah, we're very happy. So you can, you know, get to bigger events from something that seems really small and local. So there's opportunities there.
She says that she was lucky, but she absolutely trashed all the other competitors. I got trashed by Mark. He's an Irish auto test champion. So he was like 2 seconds, I was 2 seconds off his pace. So very good, very strong team went to be able to represent us. So that's very good.
So we that much different, does it really, to a stage rally?
No, it's very close to a stage rally, isn't it? It's just the average speed. Average speed on a stage rally is what, 60?
75.
75. The average speed that is required for a stage rally is 30 miles an hour. Targa, sorry. It's 30 miles an hour. So that's why you see the chicanes there, is just to slow you down and achieve that. But you do go into third, fourth gear, you pick up a lot of speed on the limits.
So I'd say one of the biggest differences is sometimes the terrain that you're driving on. So auto solo, you're mainly stuck to tarmac, whereas Targas can be on a range of terrain. So you can have loose gravel, you can be in a forest, through muddy tracks. So there's a real range, and that's again like the next step up to teach you car control. But also then getting those speeds up, and it is a perfect training ground for if you want to progress onto stage rallies, which we'll talk about later. As well as being on different terrain and going a little bit faster, you also have a navigator. So because the routes are slightly longer than an auto solo, it's not something that you can memorise. Well, some people can. But you have a navigator with you in the car who will read a map. But the difference is, to a stage rally, you get given a map that's all marked up and it tells you exactly where to go. You can call out the lettering on the cones just like an auto solo, calling left and right of the cone as well. It's a great sociable event again, like auto solos are. Competitive, and this is where your car comes into it a little bit more. So the type of car you have and the type of power, and for example, four-wheel drive or rear-wheel drive might be more suitable for some events compared to others. So this is where the car spec has slightly different standards. Also some events, like the Kent Forestry Targa, which is an event I competed in last year, requires a rear roll cage, and that's just there for safety precautions. So, but most Targa rallies are still low entry fee compared to a track day. So you're looking between, like, probably lowest fees about £50 per event, and that's again a whole day of really full-on driving. You can also double enter. So I'll drive with my dad, he'll navigate for me, and then we'll swap over, so we'll both get to have a full day of motorsport. And when you're double driving, obviously you've got to go around twice in the time that other people go around once, so it is really full on. But a great way to help you learn the test as well is a bit of a top tip, because you get to see it twice.
Yes.
And with this, again, like the other two disciplines we've spoken about, all you need is your road car, a RS Club and licence, which is free, and you join a local motorsport club. So again, it's so accessible, and it's almost like combining the last two disciplines we've been speaking about in terms of speed and car control.
Yeah. In our area, we don't. The land that we use doesn't require roll cage or anything like that. Our events are super cheap. All you need for our events is a yellow tape around the negative or the turn on the battery. For all these, nothing else. You don't need helmets. You don't need fireproofs. Nothing. And we talk a lot about stage rally. People have been. I've talked to a few of you that have been to Snetterton and watched it and enjoyed it. Stage rallies are fast, but they are not nowhere near as intense as this, right? Driving and navigating in a Targa, it's like chicane after chicane or 90 after 90. So a stage rally, you've got a lot more time to think about what you're doing. In a Targa, is extremely intense. So it's brilliant. You do finish a test out of breath if you're driving, or if you're navigating and a bit scared with the standards of your driving.
Is that your riding car?
No. You don't need to drive. You can trailer the car down there. It doesn't need. It does.
It does.
But you don't have to have tax.
It's classified as a road rally, so it does have to be a road
Sorry.
car.
Yeah, you do.
I think the difference is you can trailer it there, but so in auto solo you can drive and you're not meant to trailer it there because it's meant to be taxed, MOT. Whereas Targa, you can trailer the car there if it's not your.
You will still need an MOT.
But you still need to tax it.
Tax, you don't need the MOT.
Okay. Yeah, I think that's most of the stuff on there we've covered. Yeah, so you can navigate in a Targa rally from the age of 12 as a passenger and drive from the age of 16. And again, it's a great event to learn car control because you are going that bit faster and you've got to think a bit more about your braking and stopping distances, how you approach like a hairpin around a cone might be slightly different, how you do it in an auto solo, but you're building on all of the skills that you've developed. I would definitely recommend doing an auto solo before a Targa. I'd say I did quite a few auto solos before attempting a Targa, and I think it gives you a really strong basis to start with.
On an auto solo, you have the chance of walking the tests before you go out. On a Targa, you don't. The tests are much longer, like 4 or 5 minutes long. That's why you need your navigator. So 2 things that are brilliant about that. One is teamwork. It's not just the driver or just the navigator. It's teamwork. You have to listen to each other. And 2, since you haven't been around the test, you go like 90 corners not knowing what's on the other side. So you get there, it's dirty, you go sideways and you have to deal with it, which is brilliant. Isn't it?
Yeah.
Anything else on tires? Cool. Am I talking about something?
Yeah.
Okay. 12-car rallies and road rallying. We've been talking about events that you are trying to go fast, beat the clock, right? This is navigational. You want to be at a certain point on the route at a certain time. This is all about the navigator getting the route right and getting there at the right time. So it's not so much about the driving, what about the navigator. 12 cars working, only 12 cars are allowed. Events usually start at early evening. You, as a novice, you are given a marked map. So the map will be already, the route will already be marked on it. So your navigator just needs to tell you which junctions you take. This is public road driving, right? So you're not supposed to go above the speed limit. If you stick to the speed limit and don't get anything wrong, you will be on the right points at the right time. If your navigator doesn't get lost or the driver doesn't mess up. So you're given a map marked and you just follow that route. Events usually run up to about 10 o'clock at night. It's a really interesting sort of event. Again, no safety equipment required, public road driving, you wouldn't want to have a helmet or anything like that. The vehicles, you're not allowed to have a few things on cars like LED lights, you have to have spots with halogen and that sort of stuff. But the regulations are reasonably strict, but that's something that we can talk later if you want to get involved in this.
Yeah. So it's a real team event, really, this one.
It is much more of a team event. Now, when you progress and you get into being away from an novice, getting more of an expert, then the maps are not marked. You have to bring your own OS map, and what you're going to get is clues. So the clues will tell you what to look for on the map and plot it. And as you go along, you get new clues, and your navigator has to plot it as you drive. So the navigator needs to tell you where you need to go next, plus plot for the next section. It is a skill, it is brilliant. So there's a fair few of people here that are recognised that are experts on this.
The clues could be something like a spot height on a map or different icons which appear on an OS map. So you could get a string of those and you have to then plot a route which then goes through the boxes to get you from point A to point B in the shortest distance.
Yeah, perhaps something for people who might be a fan of puzzles and all that sort of thing. It really is all about problem solving, because if you, you're directing your driver and you don't know where you're going, before you know it, they've gone so far out of the route, it's better to just be slower, prepare yourself, know where you're going, and then do your driving.
Yeah, and if you get too early to a control point or too late, you get penalised. So you want to really control your speed and be there on time. Cost is super low, like £10–15 entry fees. People usually take out insurances specifically for that event, which is about £17–20. So you are covered to be driving, to be competing on public roads, again, within speed limit. Ages. Do you guys remember ages? 12 to start navigating and to compete.
Yeah, so
you
to
have
drive,
to
you'd
have
obviously have to pass your driving licence because it's on the road. And just to note, with 12 cars and road rallying, we do run a lot of beginners events. So we've got a webinar coming up. We've got various clubs that will run a specific event tailored for newcomers into the sport. So definitely look out for those if you want a no-pressure environment to learn what to do, experience it without actually doing a real competitive event.
They do also run events which is just to show you or teach you how to plot maps. So it's not an event that you're going to get in the car and go out. It's a social event, bring a map, and they will teach you how the whole thing works.
There's also tabletops as well. So a tabletop rally, you do it literally on your tabletop at home. You get some set of clues through, and basically do the rally on your dining table as such. So, and then submit the results through, and there's a bit of a series there as well. We were running through COVID when you couldn't go out and do stuff, and it still continued on.
I've got a map here which has still got the route on from last Friday's 12-car rally. If anybody wants to look at that, how the route is marked onto the map.
So we've got tables with information specific on each discipline later, and we're going to have people at those who can talk to you about it and give you more information. So I guess, Pete, you've been selected now to be on the 12-car table.
And that runs to all these disciplines, so don't worry if you've got more questions or just given a very brief overview. You can hear far more in more detail later.
Yeah.
Oh,
Right. Tiger rallies and the Preston rally. So we've been leading into this sort of rally and stage rallies. So you start in auto solo, then you go into Tiger rallies if you want to, and then it comes to Preston. The Preston is amazing. It's a rally that happens once a year. It runs once a year in December. It's an overnight rally, about 150 miles, as if it was a gigantic Tiger rally. So you've got tests at Thetford Forest, tests at farmers' fields. I think last year we've done 8 sections. Is that right? Who was organising Preston? 8 sections? More. Anyway, 150 miles of driving like a lunatic. This is the speed as well. This is not navigational. Although linking the sections between farmers' fields and forest, you have to drive on public roads, and that is a bit of a navigational side of it. You get to the venue, you are given a road book with maps and all the information that you need there, and then you set off about 10 o'clock at night, and you finish at about 6 o'clock in the morning to a nice breakfast at Stetson. These sorts of rally, you do need a bit more preparation. The Preston rally is known to be extremely harsh, and that's why it attracts a lot of people. They usually run at full entry capacity. So you can see the MX-5 there. That car was raised. I bought it fully prepared. That car had about 4 Prestons by the time I bought it. Washers everywhere to keep everything clean. So it does require a bit more preparation. There's a lot of people here that recognise that do the Preston every year, and they will be able to tell you a lot more into what is required if you want to get involved in this. Strongly suggest you do a few Tigers before you tackle the Preston. But it is insane. When I finished this year in the MX-5, I was so knackered I couldn't get out of the car. So you see how punching it is, but it's absolutely amazing.
And there's a massive amount of camaraderie behind the Preston Rally. Whether you're a driver, navigator, you're out marshalling, we were out marshalling all night, freezing cold in the Thetford Forest. And it's just great fun. Whether you're driving, being out at that time of night, it's something really special that you don't get to do that often. You don't get access to those sorts of roads at night, and to be able to participate and drive at the speed. Because some of the sections they do, they are still trying.
Yeah, you do reach quite high speeds going through the forest. So you've got this beautiful patch of forest, and you're driving down with your lights overnight. It's just it's just absolutely amazing. Who would have expected events like this to run in this country? Who would have thought? I guess a lot of you that have never heard of what we do and what events are run, you are probably going, really? These exist?
I think you have to go to Wales and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah, and higher level, right? Not stuff that you would be able to do with minimum safety equipment or no safety equipment, right? The speeds are kept to a level that allows you to do that.
So what is the entry fee for the Preston?
I think last year was 175, can someone correct me? Yeah, £175 for a whole night racing. How many marshals did you guys have last one?
200.
200 volunteers out there watching out, make sure that everyone is safe and making sure that you're doing the right thing as well, not sneaking a corner.
And you can see our reward on the right there.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, the Preston Rally is, I think, one of the best rally. Well, actually, is the roughest road rally you can do in the UK, and it's certainly very, very interesting. Yeah, it is. I don't think there's anything else that is comparable to the Preston. And we are super lucky. This is on our doorstep.
Definitely. So now moving on to special stage rallying. And the photo and video you'll see here is of the Corbo Seats Rally. Some of you may have been to see it. This was the first ever closed roads rally to run in the UK. So we were very, very lucky in this region. This takes place in the Clacton and Tender and surrounding areas, so just over the sort of Essex border. And this is full special stage rallying. So it was around with the British Rally Championship last year. Laura and I did it together last year. And this is where the speed is different. So like Brian said, the average speed here is 75 miles an hour. These cars are going for it. You are really trying to complete the stage as quickly as possible. Now where it differs, so this is very much a team event. Your driver is seeking to complete the stages in the fastest time possible. Now the navigator will be reading something called pace notes. You can have a look at some over there. So that is essentially you're almost reading codes, which then gives the driver an idea of the distance, the corners, what's coming up next. So it'll be something like 40, 5 left, hairpin right, and you're reading all this out whilst the car's going flat out, head up and down, head up and down. And it's really, really important to work well as a team because this is where there is that little bit of danger involved. If you give a wrong corner, who knows where you could be going? You could be going off. So it's really important that the driver and co-driver work together in this in order to be able to complete the stages in the fastest time possible. Now with special stage rallying, this is where you do need that extra bit of equipment. So Vinny, do you want to give us a talk about the car and what you need?
Yeah, so up to now we've been talking about motorsport that you can do with your road car or if you're going to Tigers and Preston Rally with a little bit of modification, nothing major. Now this is a big step up in terms of vehicle required, safety equipment and cost, unfortunately. So these events are much more expensive than anything else that we talked about. So the car in specific, you will need all the regular safety equipment required by Motorsport UK. Roll cage, fire extinguishers, what else? Helmet, fireproof.
Yeah, hands device.
Hands device, a different level of license, which does require you to go through a test. So it's a bit more. Circuit-based stage rally is still quite simple and easy for the navigator and driver. This is a step up from what we're going to talk next. Closed roads does require a lot of skill and a lot of preparation.
Definitely. And in terms of the event itself, so the Corbo Rally last year for the first time was a 2-day event. So it first ran in 2019. Last year we ran Saturday night stages on the seafront at Clacton as well as the full day on the Sunday. I think we did 3 loops of 5 stages. But for a driver and a co-driver, where with auto, solos and targets, you're just looking at that one competitive section where you are trying to complete the course, whatever it is, as fast as possible. You have timed non-competitive sections, so it's really a multitasking activity for the co-driver because what you're doing is you've just finished a stage, you're giving your time card to the marshal, they're giving you your time, you're taking your helmet off, all that time you're working out the time that you're due at the next stage. You have to navigate your driver to the next stage and then be ready to go full pelt again on the stages. So it's a really, really, it's another team discipline.
Yeah. And then going back to costs, you start with 12 cars, about 20 quid. You go to production car trials, 40s, auto solo, 40, 60, Tiger rallies, 70 quid, Preston rally, nearly 200, this 700 plus, entry fee only. So it does start getting a bit more expensive. Circuit-based stage rally, which we tend to do more of as opposed to closed roads. The costs are a bit lower. Entry fees are what, £350? £300 to £400, which is okay-ish. But then the car itself is the same thing as closed roads. The same requirements are there. You have to have all the safety equipment plus a passport. So Motorsport UK requires you to get the car checked by a approved scrutineer to make sure that the car passes, and then you are given a passport for that vehicle, which you have to comply with. So this is Snetterton footage from maybe this year.
Yeah.
Ah, cool. So circuit-based stage rally is a bit kinder on the car, a bit easier for the navigator and driver. Absolutely brilliant. Good way to start stage rallying. You do about 50 miles, Brian?
Even 45, 50 miles.
45, 50 competitive miles. And you see all sorts of cars turning up. Good example is Laura in the classic Mini, and they are fast.
We're not competitive with the R5s at the top, but we are when they get it wrong. So again, just like an Auto Solo and a Targa, it's about finishing the day. And you see lots of cars retire at these kind of events because either they've not prepared the car properly, or they're not following the route, or they're going a bit too mad behind the wheel. So if you are clean and you stick to the route and you work well as a team, you can be really successful and just work your way up throughout the day. Often start at the bottom in my Mini, but can climb up the ranks just by keeping it clean and tidy and working as a team.
Now, there are some cheaper entry routes into special stage rallying. So there's something new called the Mini Challenge, which is a new championship, and that you can buy the rally car for around £7,000-8,000, and it's a full championship with cars of the exact same spec, so you haven't necessarily got that issue. Also, there's a junior championship from age, Tommy, what is it, 12, 14? 14. You can compete in special stage rallying in a Micra. I think they're only 1 litre, they're fairly standard, they've still got things that you need in them to be able to do a stage rally, but you can pick up a stage rally car for probably a few £1,000s if you want to get involved. And it's also a good time that we mentioned that you don't have to compete in order to take part in special stage rally. So marshalling is key in motorsport. It's a great way that you can get involved and be as close to the action, if not closer, than the competitors themselves. Marshalling is key in motorsport. It's a great way that you can get involved and be as close to the action, if not closer, than the competitors themselves. So in terms of marshalling, there's a wide range of roles, from sort of maybe watching a stage and making sure it's safe to doing the time cards. And it's, we need marshals. So for the Corbo Rally, you need, I think there's around 600, 700 marshals, and it's really, really sociable. So it's a great day out, and if you're interested in any of these disciplines, one of the best ways to get involved and see what it's all about first is sign up to Marshall, because you can have a watch, meet the people, see the cars, and then just get an idea of the discipline before you take part for the first time.
Yeah.
So in terms of becoming a marshal, all you need to do is go to our national governing body's website, Motorsport UK, and there is a very short course that you would complete online. It takes no longer than an hour, and there's about four sections talking about safety and things like that. As soon as you've completed that, they will send your licence through in the post, a marshal's tabard, and you're ready to go, and can go and do events. We also do let you come and have a watch, and we'll buddy you up if you're a new marshal with experienced people, so you don't have to worry, because we do a lot of training on events and mirroring people, putting you with others who are far more experienced.
Yeah, it's good if you go on the website and register yourself and do the whole thing, but if you just want to turn up to an event and not commit to anything, that's fine as well. We'll get you with a experienced marshal, and you're going to have the full experience.
And you can do marshalling from the age of 11. So there's something called cadet marshal, which is where if you're younger, I think it's age under 16, you can be a marshal, again, put with experienced people, and there's various roles and duties that you can undertake, which is brilliant.
Yeah.
Definitely. So, we've spoken a lot about the disciplines and mainly focused on driving, which of course is a big part of motorsport, but it's not everything. There are so many other ways that you can get involved in motorsport without actually being behind the wheel of a car. So some other examples are scrutineering, being one of the people that check over the cars if you enjoy that side of things to make sure that they're safe. rescue and recovery, we've got a lot of sort of Land Rover owners who love to be out on events with their tow ropes, bringing the cars in, especially the Preston.
The
It keeps
Preston,
them very busy.
they do get very busy on the Preston, that's for sure.
Media and promotion, so we do a lot in terms of with the radio, promoting the sport. But there's also a pathway in order to progress. So if you want to be a marshal or an official, you can actually progress in that and move up the ranks in terms of the duties that you might be allowed to do. For example, being a clerk of the course. So Dan is a clerk of the course.
Yeah, so I'm trainee stage rally clerk of the course, but I also clerk trials and auto tests. So it's auto solo, so it's ever so easy to get involved. Just need to have a little bit of clue about the sport, and it's easy.
Definitely. And just a brief overview, in terms of other involvement, both Laura and I, we're on the Motorsport UK Committee for Women in Motorsport, looking at equality and diversity. That's something we've done a massive amount of in this region. So you might recognise that logo, Better Together. Essentially what we've been doing over the last few years is really working to make the environment as inclusive and accessible as possible. So just an overview that whoever you are, you're welcome to come and join our sport.
So just for context, I'm Sam Walker and I work for Motorsport UK in the Learning Development Department. So we mainly look after all things to do with officials and marshals and how they progress through the sport and how we can also provide training to them. It's been alluded to before that there's a number of roles that you can undertake as a volunteer if you choose not to go down that competitive route. We'll start with your stewards. So who watched the Grand Prix last weekend? As a show of hands on the TV, probably a lot of you did. So there was all that chaos around Fernando Alonso and his podium being given back and forth to him. Now that was decided by the stewards on the event. Now not all disciplines have these, not strictly some of the disciplines that we spoke about tonight, but actually a lot of them across the country will have stewards. Again, these are all volunteers, so it might be a surprise to you that all of these roles, and particularly within the FIA as well, and all those international events, they actually all people that started out from the grassroots and actually worked their way up through the learning development pathway. So again, your stewards are basically there to make sure the event is complying with overall regulations, safety, and also that judicial aspect. So where we saw Fernando Alonso last weekend getting penalties and they're not penalties, they're the ones that look after that mainly. We also have the clerk of the course, so we said before, Dan is the clerk of the course. They're essentially the head honcho of the events in terms of organising the logistics on the day, just making sure everything's working, running to schedule, and also the first point of contact for competitors and other officials to discuss matters relating to the event itself. You also have your scrutineers, so we've mentioned this before as well, so they basically check the technical compliance of the vehicles, so they make sure that they're safe for the event that they're running in, and also to check the PPE, so if you are wearing helmets or full fireproofs, etc. Some of them are life, so they have certain expiry dates. Again, scrutineers will make sure that you are wearing the correct equipment. And they can also provide you that advice outside of events as well. So if you want to make sure your car is competitive and safe for an event you're thinking about entering in the future, they can also be that point of contact for you. We also have timekeepers, so particularly on stage rallying, where you are racing against the clock, but again, in all of the disciplines, so circuit racing, karting, speed, hill climb, we all have timekeepers, and they're basically the ones that issue the results and also operate the timing equipment, so it varies in levels of complexity from a stopwatch all the way to a massively complicated circuit-wide timing system, but they're the ones that look after all of those things, and again, they're all volunteers primarily. And then we also have rescue and recovery. So those of you that like to get really hands-on, as we said, with a Land Rover, with a winch, you can go out and be a recovery operator. But what we also have in some disciplines, in multi-venue rallying, stage rallying, we also have rescue units, and they're also found on circuits, hill climbs, again, for your high-speed events. And they're essentially the ambulance/fire truck. They do a mix of both. And actually, they're all volunteers as well. So you'll have your doctors on board as well, potentially with a paramedic, but the actual operators of that rescue unit are volunteers, but they've gone through a training process that we set out as Motorsport UK. And actually, in the vast majority of cases, they are equally as qualified as a fire serviceman. So we had a team of our Motorsport UK rescue licensed personnel last year go out to a competition where they were basically cutting up cars, and we had other fire services there. And we weren't last in terms of capabilities. One thing to say about all of this is that if you're interested in going down any of these routes, there is a structured pathway, like Laura was saying, you can progress through these roles. and that is absolutely free of charge. The onus is on you to actually turn up and get the experience. It's very similar to a qualification in terms of how the training is progressed. You also sometimes have a mentor, so you're not left to do it by yourselves. You have someone that's really experienced with you that will guide you through that process. And it covers everything from general safety related matters all the way through to the judicial. If you're really interested in rules and regulations or issuing penalties, if that's what you'd really like to end up doing on events, you will get the training to make those decisions properly, unlike some of the stewards last weekend in the Grand Prix. Need I say more? But as it's been alluded to before tonight, actually the marshal side is probably the most accessible and primary way of getting in terms of being a volunteer. So it depends on the discipline. Being a marshal is quite a broad term, as it were. Overall, they're there to make sure the event is running safely and to make sure the competitors are also having a good time. So if you're on an auto solo or an auto test, they might be making sure that you're following the correct route. But again, if you're on a hill climb or a sprint or a circuit or a multi-venue rally, they're there to make sure that you are safe, and if something has gone wrong, they are usually the first persons there to actually assist you or assist the competitors and the co-drivers in that context. So that module that we were talking about earlier, that introductory module on our website, when you first take out your licence, actually covers some of that basic first on scene. So basic first aid, what to do with a car when it has stopped or it's had an accident in front of you. There's some very simple tips that we give you just to make sure you have that bit of knowledge. A lot of the cars in the disciplines with high speed actually have inbuilt safety features. What we do is give you that training to know how to use those safety features. So if the car has stopped in front of you, you can literally kill the engine off with a switch on the outside. But as with the other roles I've spoken about, there is again a pathway of progression through these. So when you first take out a registration with us, you're known as a registered marshal. But we also have a grade system, so you can move up to grade 1, grade 2, and then finally grade 3. And that is reflective of basically your experience and the training you've undertaken. So whilst you start out and you do the online course, you actually can then go and do in-person training sessions, and that can be anything from fire theory and fire practical. So you will most likely have to go out and learn how to put fires. It's not just a case of pointing an extinguisher and hoping for the best. There is actually more to it than that. But then also you can learn how to properly, safely roll a car back over, for instance. There's a number of things that we can give you that education for. But then if you're looking at the licensed official role, so where we're saying about the clerks, the stewards, your scrutineers, timekeepers, we actually also host what we call seminars or workshops, and they can either be organised through us as Motorsport UK, but some clubs actually organise them themselves as informal get-togethers, and that's where we go through the more procedural side of things. So Brian has been on quite an extensive tour with myself and another chap called Neil Fuller over the past 6 months or so around the UK, and we go and visit all of the licensed officials in those areas, and we give them that one-to-one training, as it were, basically related to regulations, but also how to work effectively as a team on events. I think if you're ever wanting to get involved in motorsport and not quite wanting to go down a competitive route yet, or just want to see what the score is first, being a volunteer is absolutely the best way to do it. And again, I don't think any club will turn a volunteer away. No club has got too many volunteers, so do not be afraid to ask. And there is also a number of roles within a club as well that you can undertake if you get involved with that club. So it could be that you become their entry secretary, so you manage the entries of all the events. It could be that you're the chairman, or it could be you're the treasurer. Again, all of these are voluntary roles, but for the vast majority of cases, people do it for the love of it as well. So if you are interested in getting volunteering, do speak to the clubs that are here tonight, but also you can speak to myself before I leave, and I can also give you some pointers on how to actually go about progressing that further in the sport in the future. Thank you very much.
Thank
Laura?
you. And again, in terms of that volunteering, it's not one way. We will also do things to support you. So if there's something that you want to develop in that perhaps you don't get the opportunity to in your professional work life, or you're really interested in something, you can come over and do some really innovative things with us. We certainly do some weird, wacky things now. So in terms of opportunities, we hope that the last sort of hour or so has sort of cleared some of these up. You might not be looking at them now thinking, oh gosh, what is that? I'm now going to pass over to Ben, who's Community Activation Manager at Motorsport UK, who's going to give us a brief overview of a new initiative called Street Car.
So all stuff's going last because everything's already been said, but I'll try my best. So I work within the club and community development team at Motorsport UK. And for context, Motorsport UK has gone through a period of transition. We used to be a Motorsport Association, and now we are much more of a member-focused club. So we focus on the members and the community, and we accommodate their needs. And when we went through this period of transition, we asked our community, what do you want? What do you want to see from the sport? And what they said is, we want promotion of grassroots disciplines. And so streetcar was one. And what streetcar is, you've heard tonight, pretty much everything apart from stage rallies, there's a common theme, and it is you can do it in your everyday road car. And what we mean by that is literally anything 90% of things you can buy off the street or second hand, you can probably find an event to compete in. And the reason that you can do that is because, as Vinny said, the environments in which you compete in are controlled. So the reason that you can compete without a harness, without a hand device, without a helmet, is because they're usually low speed, but that doesn't necessarily mean they're low kind of adrenaline. So Streetcar is our campaign to basically connect people with the clubs that you want to compete in. So, for example, if you wanted to join Streetcar, we would put you in touch with Vinny, who's the ambassador for Streetcar at Anglia Motorsport Club, and he would find you an event. And that would be your first event. You go down, you either compete, spectate, or maybe volunteer, Marshall, Sam, yeah? And then you get yourself involved. So yeah, they've already been mentioned, so I can't really go into them in detail, but there is a series of progression, as people have said. With rallies, they go everything from a touring assembly. I don't think touring assembly was mentioned actually. No, and a touring assembly is basically a jolly. It's when you go, usually with your friends, and you go from one point to another, taking some fantastic scenery and have a social at the end. Which also requires some navigation. There are treasure hunts where you go on a predetermined route, and that route is going from one place to another. Along the way, you find clues, you solve riddles, and it's a good fun for a Sunday or a Saturday. And the rest of them have already been mentioned, apart from probably navigational scatter, which is quite similar to a 12 car, apart from instead of plotting a certain route, you plot a series of routes, and it's your objective to get to as many routes as you can, or the correct routes that are worth the max amount of points. Up to 75%, I think. I only did my first one yesterday, so I'm still rusty. Trials, they've been covered. Thank you for the Lauras, they're pretty detailed. And auto solos, you had about half an hour on auto solos. I don't think I'm going to go.
Yeah, sorry.
No, it's okay. But yeah, I've done a few auto solos myself. I've even done an auto solo, and Vinny's.
Let's just stop there.
And you think Vinny's good? There's nothing more embarrassing than beating a man in his own car. They are a great way to get involved in the sport, and they look slow speed, but when they're finished, your blood is pumping, your hands are shaking, you're full of adrenaline. It's so much fun, I promise you. And you can do it from PCA, 13 or 14 years of age.
14.
Get involved, get started. The best part of streetcar experience is, as already been alluded to, everyday road car, the costs are cheap. You're guaranteed to have the car somewhere, or your cousin, your dad, your mum, your niece, nephew, they're going to have a spare car rolling around. Use the 106, Embarrass me some more, it doesn't really matter. But it's a great way to get involved, and as it's already been said, it's safe. That's the point. It's free, it's safe, and the licence is from us. So what we do with the Norris Clubman licence is, there was a long time where these events were going on, and we didn't necessarily know who was competing, which created an insurance nightmare. So what we did is create RS Clubman, which allows people to, when they go to an event, they know that if, touch wood, nothing usually happens, but if anything were to happen, you're covered by the insurance provided by Motorsport UK, with millions of pounds of indemnity.
Should we just hold that a bit?
Also, these kind of disciplines are a great way to get into motorsport. There are plenty of ways to get into motorsport through marshalling, through officiating. But if you did want to compete, or Marshall, come and join Streetcar. So if you wanted to get your licence today, it's free. I've got an iPad with me, I can sign you up straight away. If you wanted to talk to me about what kind of disciplines are involved in your area, probably talk to Vinny, but I'll give it a good go myself. And
The bottom two things on there are the most important. There's
They
something
are.
for everyone.
Yeah.
And they're fun. That's the main point. We do motorsport because it's fun. You know, like people seem to forget that. Every event that you do, especially around Anglia, is going to be massive, massive fun, and you're going to be coming back, I guarantee. Thanks.